Welcome to the show with the eternal self. Every visit banger, best believe he don't miss. Do me a favor, drop a sub and keep tuning in. If you like what you see, go and share with your friends.
Episode 5 is here. It came, guys, and it went, but guess what? It's still here and it stays because it's on Disney Plus. But I have to say, what an episode. It really did not disappoint. I don't care if you're a hater, if you're in the middle, if you like it too much or don't like it too much. It was a good episode, and we're gonna get into it. It really it hit a note, I think, for everybody. It gave something that we had never seen before in live action, and like I said, we're gonna get into it. So if you're here for the episode, stick around. If you don't want to hear much about it and you haven't seen the episode, I suggest you leave the video. But I will say this, I was right about the episode and everything I told you guys 2 videos ago from the source that gave me the information on everything that we did get. But without further ado, let's dive right into it. So we see Hera Syndulla looking for Ahsoka and Sabine and ends up running into Huyang. As you hear, he hasn't really talked to them and doesn't know anything about them, as he did tell them the last thing that he said to them was to stay together. Then right after, we get into the best part, which is seeing Anakin and Ahsoka for the first time, apart from last week's episode, in the world between worlds. Now, Ahsoka doesn't remember really what happened and how she got there, but remembers, and Anakin reminds her as she is thinking now and mentions Baylan Skoll, who was the one who knocked her off the cliff. And you hear Anakin right after say, "You remember, that's good." And he finally called her Snips and in live action. And I thought that was really, really cool because, again, it's very homage to the Clone Wars. And it ended up being that from the sources that I did have, it was true. And I talked about it in my prior video. So now you guys know, y'all gotta stick around because, again, sources are true. Now, Ahsoka immediately tells Anakin right after, as he ignites his lightsaber, that she will not fight him. And of course, what do you think happens? They end up fighting. They end up sparring, basically. Then we go back to Hera searching for Ahsoka and Sabine, and we see Jacen and Chopper, and while Jacen is looking out into the ocean, he calls his mother Hera and tells her that he feels and senses something out there, and this is right here showing more evidence and signs that he truly is the son of Kanan Jarrus, aka Doom. Now, as he tells Hera to listen to the waves, more and more he hears the lightsabers of Anakin Skywalker and Ahsoka. And again, he will eventually be a Jedi, which we'll talk about in another video that will go more in depth, even though I did give one a couple days ago, but we'll do a little bit more after this, after we see the whole thing of the Ahsoka series. So we go back to the fight scene with Anakin and Ahsoka, and as you see they're fighting, Ahsoka ends up telling Anakin there's not really much you have left to offer, and he basically tells her, "I haven't taught you everything just yet." And we see Ahsoka falling after Anakin broke the path from the world between worlds. And she lands in where we see it's like the beginning of the Clone Wars with Phase 1 clone troopers. And we finally get to see a young Ahsoka. Now, we're going to talk in another video about this actress, and we're going to, we'll dive a little bit more deeper into the whole situation. But we finally got to see this, and we see Anakin Skywalker, while Hayden Christensen's version, wearing the Clone Wars attire, which is something we were promised in the Kenobi series, but never happened. Now, you hear Ahsoka say this was the very early stages of the Clone Wars, and Anakin says, "You tell me," after Ahsoka asks him why we're here. And it's funny because this is the same thing that I was talking about in my video the other day from my close source that I was telling you guys about. We also got to see, yes, Captain Rex. Now, no helmet off, but we got to see Phase 1 Captain Rex with Anakin, and you see a young Ahsoka holding the hand of an injured clone trooper. Now, Anakin does come over to check up on Ahsoka, as you can tell that this has really destroyed her, especially seeing this timeline of, how much the mistakes that they've made that cost them their lives, as she's telling Anakin, and asks him if it does bother him, and he says of course it does. But the main reason for this training and the purpose is so Ahsoka could become a soldier, and he's teaching her how to lead, how to fight. And right after this little interaction, Ahsoka does end up asking Anakin what if she wants to stop fighting, and he says, "You'll die," which is pretty deep, I thought, right after. But we also get to see a shot of Anakin Skywalker as he's basically walking into the mist in this Clone Wars scene, and Ahsoka sees there Vader, kind of like his shadow, or he turns into like Vader for a snippet. But it's pretty cool. I like that. I thought that was like really, really nice to see. Now, right after we see Carson Teva doing some circuits around looking for Sabine and Ahsoka, and we obviously they couldn't find them, and we hear Hera just basically saying, keep searching, don't stop, keep it going, even though they're running out of fuel. The job is to find Ahsoka and Sabine. Now, we do hear Huyang and Hera discussing the mission that did get approved by the Senate, but it ends up being that he learns that they didn't get approved for it, as you hear Hera kind of talking about it. And it's cool because she also does ask, what was he like, meaning Anakin Skywalker, and Huyang does say intense, because again, Hera never met him, so there's that. So in the very next scene, it's exactly what I told you guys in my video prior from what my source ended up telling me to be true, is we see Ahsoka fighting during the siege of Mandalore, and we saw some Maul troopers, which was so cool. And she's got her blue lightsabers, and we see Captain Rex as well. It was so cool. I can't even deny it. Like it was dope. It was dope. But you could tell in this or during this time, Ahsoka is a lot more mature, obviously, since this is the end of the Clone Wars. And you see Anakin Skywalker come from behind and say, I don't remember this part of the war. As you see him now, he is wearing his Revenge of the Sith attire. And you hear Anakin talking about how it looks intense. And he tells Ahsoka that she did well and calls her a warrior. Now, Anakin tells Ahsoka that she is part of a legacy, and Ahsoka right after says she's part of one of death and war. And it's crazy because Ahsoka confronted him and told him how powerful and dangerous he was, more than anyone ever realized. Now, this is something that we have never seen or got to even hear in live action. And Anakin tells her, you have learned nothing, and to go back to the beginning. And his lightsaber ignites red as he turns into Vader and tells her, you will live or die. And she says, no. And he says, incorrect. And I'm telling you, I had goosebumps when that happened. I don't know about you guys, but right after they start fighting, or you could say sparring, and Anakin is overpowering her as he kicks her out of the portal that they were in during the Siege of Mandalore, and she lands back in the between of the worlds, and you hear Vader coming. And let me tell you, he really is overpowering her and tells her, now it's time to die. And as Anakin pulls a move, Ahsoka grabs his lightsaber and holds it right up to his face, and for a second as they zoom in, we see Ahsoka with some Sith eyes, and she throws his lightsaber away, and she tells him that she chooses to live. And you see Anakin stepping back more and more, and he smiles and says, there's hope for you yet. And he disappears just like that. And let me tell you, wow, what a powerful, powerful scene right there, I have to say. But then right after, we see Ahsoka getting saved, and she is now back on the ghost ship. And we see Ahsoka laying down where just regular clothes, basically, and some regular socks, which is pretty funny. But then right after, you see Ahsoka getting updated on everything that's going on, as she does learn that Sabine is gone. Yes, gone. But right after, she starts kind of going around and sensing and using her Force abilities to know what happened with Sabine and how everything went down, which she does end up finding out. We also get to see Jason Syndulla, and we see Ahsoka thanking him for saving her life. And as we hear this interaction, he tells her that he did hear lightsabers. Now, you know what that means. Again, this is all leading to something bigger for him, and we'll talk about him at the very end of the Ahsoka series after everything is said and done. But she does tell him to go to the Jedi training room with Huyang, as again, like I said, it does solidify more. And he even asks him if he could build a lightsaber or train, and Huyang's like, that's not happening. But we do see Hera talking to Senator Mon Mothma and telling her that she will not be returning to Coruscant because that was what the Senate wanted. And she even said Ahsoka is probably not going to want to do that now with everything going on, which ends up being true because we then see the Purrgil as Ahsoka now is communicating with them the same way that Ezra did. And guess what? It ends up being that they fly into the mouth of the Purrgil, and now they are on their way to finding Sabine and Thrawn and whatever else is out there. But wow, guys, what a friggin' episode. I have to say, I give it a 10 hands down. I don't know about what you guys thought about it, but my favorite, of course, and I'm sure everybody's, was that of Anakin. And I have to say, to see the interaction between the two of them, I feel like for me, the best part of that whole thing with the two of them was seeing them in the phase 1 era of the Clone Wars. That interaction was just so deep. You see such a young Ahsoka talking to, Anakin Skywalker, to see him in the Clone Wars attire. I thought it was so, so cool. And I'm excited to see what more they have in store. Again, we know we're not getting no more Anakin Skywalker, most probably, maybe somewhere down along the line, maybe as the Force goes again. But wow, what an episode. But comment down below, guys. Let me know what you thought about this episode and everything that they had to give us. Stick around tomorrow as I'm going to have more information and thoughts on the episode that we got on the Ahsoka series for episode 5. Catch you in the comment section. This is the Eternal Sith. Later, guys.